There is knowledge that few have access to in our society. Such a fundamental principle about wealth creation that those who truly understand it rarely share it openly. Not out of malice, but because this truth challenges everything we have been taught about how the world works. Wattles, a revolutionary thinker of the early 20th century, dedicated his life to studying the invisible patterns that separate those who prosper from those who perpetually struggle. After years of meticulous observation, he came to a shocking conclusion. There is a science of getting rich, and it is an exact science. Like algebra or arithmetic, think about the power of that statement. What if wealth wasn't a matter of luck, privilege, or exceptional talent? What if there were precise laws governing prosperity, laws that anyone could learn and deliberately apply? This revelation challenges everything we have been taught. From childhood, we absorb the idea that wealth is for the fortunate few, that life is a constant struggle, and that scarcity is the natural state of things. This programming is so deeply ingrained in our collective psyche that we rarely question it. But Wattles discovered something different, something that the truly prosperous know, whether through intuition or conscious learning, something that completely transforms the rules of the game. Getting rich is not a matter of doing certain things, he wrote, but of doing things a certain way. This subtle distinction holds the power to transform your financial reality completely. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's not your external actions, it's the internal energy from which those actions flow. If you look carefully, you will see this principle manifested everywhere. Two people can work in the same industry, invest the same time, execute the same strategies, and one will prosper while the other remains stagnant. One entrepreneur can launch a business with minimal resources and prosper extraordinarily, while another, with abundant capital and powerful connections, fails miserably. The difference is not in the external circumstances. It is in the internal frequency from which they operate. This is the truth that the truly rich understand, but few can articulate. Wealth begins as an inner state before manifesting as an outer reality. It is a vibration, a specific frequency that, once tuned, naturally attracts corresponding circumstances, opportunities, and resources. Why then? Is this knowledge not widely shared? Because our collective culture is based on the belief in scarcity. Our economic, educational, and social systems were built on the premise that there is not enough to go around, that for one to win, another must lose. This belief sustains hierarchies, justifies inequalities, and keeps the masses in a perpetual state of effort and struggle. Furthermore, those who truly understand this principle recognize that it cannot be merely transmitted as intellectual information. It must be absorbed, integrated, and experienced to be truly understood. But today, here, we will uncover this hidden truth. This knowledge has the power to free you from the financial limitations you may have accepted as inevitable. It has the power to transform your relationship with money, work, and the concept of value itself. What you are about to discover is not a passing strategy, but a principle that, once understood and applied, transforms not just your financial results, but your entire life experience. Doing things a certain way. This quote by Wallace D. Wattles contains the deepest secret of true prosperity. To understand its transformative significance, consider this story. Two men decide to start identical businesses. Both have similar training, comparable resources, and equivalent networks of contacts. Both follow the same strategic steps, implement similar processes, and offer practically indistinguishable services. However, after a year, the first man is struggling to survive. Your company barely covers the costs. He works tirelessly, often 16-hour days, sacrificing health and relationships to keep the doors open. Despite all this effort, prosperity always seems to be one step beyond their reach. The second man, on the other hand, sees his business flourish. Customers naturally seek you out. Talented employees are drawn to your vision. He works with focus and purpose, but without the desperate feeling of struggle. Instead of exhaustion, he feels expansion. Instead of scarcity, he experiences flow. What differentiates these two men? It's not your external actions. Those are basically identical. The crucial difference is in the energy from which they operate. The first man acts from scarcity. Every decision is driven by the fear of losing. Your dominant thought is, I can't fail. I need to prove myself. What if I don't succeed? Externally, he performs the correct actions. Internally, it vibrates at the frequency of lack. The second man operates from abundance. Your decisions flow from the certainty of your ability to create value. Your dominant thought is, I'm offering something genuinely valuable. Success is the natural outcome. How can I serve even better? Externally, his actions appear identical to those of the first man. Internally, it vibrates at the frequency of fullness. This is the right way that Wattles described, not a specific set of actions, but the inner state from which all actions flow. Ask yourself honestly, which of these frequencies have you been operating on when you work, invest, create, or serve? Do you do it from a sense of lack or a sense of fullness? From the fear of losing or the joy of expressing? From desperate need or natural expansion? The signs are subtle but telling. When you face a challenge, is your first response anxiety or curiosity? When an opportunity arises, you ask yourself, what if it goes wrong? Or how can this expand? When someone achieves success around you, do you feel jealous or inspired? Wallace D. Wattles understood that all of our actions carry the energy of our inner truth. A forced smile does not have the same effect as an authentic smile. Help offered out of obligation does not create the same result as help offered out of genuine joy. A business built on fear does not thrive like a business built on trust. This understanding explains why so many people follow all the rules of success and still don't achieve it. They perform the right actions, but from the wrong energy. It's like planting seeds in fertile soil, but watering them with contaminated water. The good news is that you can change your energetic frequency at any time. It is not a fixed characteristic of your personality. It's a choice you make every moment, often unconsciously, but can become increasingly conscious with practice. The first step is recognition. Observe, without judgment, the energy from which you have been operating. The second step is choice. Once you are aware of your current frequency, you can deliberately change it. Instead of focusing on what is missing, direct your awareness to what is already present. This is not a superficial technique. It's a fundamental recalibration of your relationship with reality. Wattles made a revolutionary discovery that challenges our conventional understanding of reality. He realized that the original substance from which all things are made is a substance that thinks. This profound statement reveals the fundamental nature of the universe as a living, intelligent, responsive system, not an inert machine operating through random coincidences. This thinking substance permeates everything that exists. It is in you, around you, and constitutes every material and energetic manifestation. The most extraordinary thing is that this substance responds precisely to your dominant mindset, your consistent expectations, and the emotional tone you sustain. It's not enough to have occasional thoughts of abundance if your predominant mindset is one of scarcity and limitation. This is what the thinking substance will use as a model to manifest in your life. This is why superficial affirmations or episodic visualizations rarely produce lasting results. They are like drops of water trying to change the direction of a mighty river. To truly change your results, you need to transform the undercurrent of your habitual thoughts, ingrained beliefs, and automatic expectations. You need to realign your entire being with the frequency of prosperity. Notice those people who seem to attract opportunities easily. It's not luck or coincidence. They have established a mental emotional field that naturally attracts circumstances aligned with their dominant frequency. They expect things to work out and therefore notice and take advantage of possibilities that others, vibrating on the frequency of doubt, do not even notice. A fascinating experiment occurs when a person with a scarcity mindset and another with an abundance mindset face the same challenging situation. The first will see insurmountable obstacles, reasons to give up, confirmation of your limitations. The second will see exactly the same external reality, but will see hidden opportunities, valuable lessons, seeds of future possibilities. The thinking substance does not respond to your words or even your superficial actions. It responds to the vibrational frequency emanating from you, a frequency determined by your dominant thoughts, recurring feelings, and deeply held expectations. It's like tuning a radio. When you are on the 88.5 frequency, you only receive what is being broadcast on that frequency. Nothing that is being broadcast on 107.3 will reach you, no matter how much you wish or ask. To receive a different transmission, you need to change the frequency itself. Wallace D. Wattles understood that synchronization between thought, feeling, and action is essential to consciously communicate with this creative substance. Don't just think about abundance if you feel anxiety. There is no point in visualizing success if you act in fear of failure. The dissonance between these elements creates interference, like static on a radio channel, distorting your communication with the responsive field of life. To align these elements, start by cultivating genuine gratitude for what you already have. Gratitude is the frequency that comes closest to the natural abundance of the universe. When you give deep gratitude for even the simplest things, you tune into the reality of wholeness around you. Then practice what Wattles called thinking a certain way, clear, defined, confident thinking about what you want to create. Do not think from desperate desire, but from calm expectation. Mentally see what you want to manifest as already accomplished, complete, present. Match that clear thought with corresponding emotion. Feel in advance the satisfaction, joy, and fulfillment you will experience when your desire manifests. Finally, act from this new state of being. Make decisions, start conversations, make choices as if you were already the person you want to become, living the reality you want to manifest. From birth, we are immersed in a powerful narrative, the story of scarcity. There's not enough to go around. For you to win, someone has to lose. Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work hard to get the bare minimum. These messages bombard us through family, education, media, and virtually every social system we know. This programming is not accidental. The systems that dominate our society fundamentally depend on the collective belief in limitation. When the masses believe that resources, opportunities, and prosperity are scarce, they accept conditions they would never accept if they understood the true abundant nature of life. Think about the educational systems that condition us to compete for limited grades, positions, and recognition, and economic systems that convince us that value is a fixed quantity to be divided, not infinite energy to be created and expanded, and information systems that highlight disasters, crises, and breakdowns, rarely celebrating the creativity, generosity, and cooperation that also permeate our human experience. But there is something profoundly revealing about those who truly understand prosperity. They are not afraid to share their knowledge. They do not feel threatened by other people's success. In fact, they are often dedicated to uplifting others, recognizing that abundance multiplies when shared. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in history, does not hide his strategies. He communicates them openly in annual letters, interviews, and lectures. Richard Branson actively mentors and supports new entrepreneurs. Oprah Winfrey has dedicated her career to elevating diverse voices and creating platforms for others to shine. Why do these extraordinarily successful individuals not fear competition? Because they intuitively understand what Wallace D. Wattles explicitly articulated: true prosperity is creative, not extractive. Extractive wealth operates based on the idea that abundance is limited. Therefore, to get more, you must take from someone, exploit finite resources, or create artificial scarcity. This form of wealth inevitably generates imbalance, conflict, and, eventually, collapse. Creative wealth, on the other hand, recognizes that true value is generated when you expand possibilities, solve meaningful problems, and create life-enriching experiences. This form of wealth generates balance, cooperation, and sustainability because it adds to the collective good, rather than subtracting from it. This fundamental distinction explains why so many people remain stuck in patterns of scarcity, even when they execute all the right strategies to thrive. If their actions are grounded in the belief that they must compete for limited resources, they naturally emanate an energy of distrust, anxiety, and protectiveness, which inevitably manifests further experiences of limitation. How can you identify if you are still operating from the scarcity paradigm, the The signs are subtle but telling. Do you feel anxious about sharing ideas, fearing someone will steal them? Do you experience resentment when you see others thriving in your field? Do you make decisions based mainly on the fear of losing or failing? Do you often feel like you have to prove yourself or justify your seat at the table? Are you hesitant to invest in yourself, seeing expenses as losses rather than seeds for growth? These patterns are not character flaws. These are symptoms of deep programming that can be recognized and transformed. Consider the story of Sylvia, a talented graphic designer who struggled to make her small agency thrive. For years, she competed fiercely for projects, cutting her rates to beat competitors, accumulating clients even when her values didn't align, and working herself to the point of exhaustion to prove her worth. Despite all this effort, his company was barely surviving. Worse still, Sylvia had lost connection with the creative passion that had initially inspired her. Work had become a battle, not an expression. Then, through an unexpected mentor, she encountered the teachings of Wallace D. Wattles. Slowly, he began to recognize how his scarcity mindset was sabotaging his own efforts. He realized he was operating from fear, not creativity, competing, not creating. The scarcity we experience is not the natural law of life. It is a human construct, perpetuated by systems based on fear and separation. Liberation begins when we recognize that true abundance is the natural state of the universe. How do you operate on the frequency of prosperity in your everyday life? This practical question deserves our full exploration. As intellectual understanding of principles is just the beginning, consistent application is where real transformation occurs. Individuals who naturally vibrate at the frequency of abundance share certain behaviors and approaches to life. They make decisions from a place of possibility, not limitation. When faced with a choice, they don't just ask, "Can I afford it?" or "What is the safest option?" but "What would create the most value? And what aligns with my bigger vision?" Observe how these people respond to setbacks and challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles as evidence that things are hard or that success isn't for me, they interpret them as valuable feedback, needed redirection, or an opportunity for growth. The same circumstance that paralyzes a person stuck in a scarcity mindset becomes a springboard for someone attuned to abundance. The fundamental difference is in the expectation. Passive expectation says, "I believe this could happen someday, if I'm lucky." Active expectation states, "I know this is manifesting now, through me, and I am watching for the signs of its arrival." The first is a vague desire. The second is a creative force. To cultivate this active expectation, practice what Wallace D. Wattles called anticipatory gratitude. Instead of waiting for something to manifest and then being grateful, feel genuine gratitude now, as if you have already received what you want. This is not self-deception. It is recognizing that, at the deepest energetic level, everything already exists in potential, awaiting only your ability to receive it. Each morning, take 5 minutes to feel this gratitude in advance. Vividly visualize your wish already fulfilled. See the details, feel the emotions, experience the reality of that manifestation as if it were occurring now. So, carry this vibration with you throughout the day. Equally powerful is the principle of acting as if. How would you act if you were already the prosperous person you want to be? How would you make decisions? How would you treat your time, energy, and resources? How would you communicate with others? We are not talking about pretending externally, but about aligning yourself internally with that reality. A budding entrepreneur who acts as if she already runs a thriving business doesn't spend hours obsessively checking her bank account with anxiety. Instead, dedicate this time to creating extraordinary value, building meaningful relationships, and developing your unique skills just as you would if you were already established. This practice transmutes the energy of worry into inspired planning, while worry contracts your energy and limits your vision. Inspired planning expands possibilities and clears your path. One comes from fear, the other of creative confidence. Those who operate on the frequency of prosperity also have an uncanny ability to recognize opportunities that others simply don't see, not because they have access to exclusive information, but because they are tuned into a different channel of perception. To cultivate this expanded awareness, practice what we might call an abundance inventory daily. At the end of each day, identify at least 5 manifestations of abundance you experienced, opportunities that arose, inspiring ideas you received, resources that became available, meaningful connections that formed. This trains your brain to filter reality through the lens of abundance, not limitation. The community you associate with also plays a crucial role in maintaining your vibrational frequency. Social environments are contagious, for better or worse. Seek out mentors, partners, and communities that already operate at the frequency you want to cultivate. Your standards will become your standards. Your possibilities will become your possibilities. What seemed mystical or metaphysical when Wallace D. Wattles wrote The Science of Getting Rich at the beginning of the 20th century today finds surprising validation in diverse scientific fields. Recent discoveries in quantum physics, neuroscience, and psychology converge to confirm what Wattles intuited through careful observation. There is indeed a measurable connection between mental states and material manifestation. Quantum physics has revolutionized our understanding of reality by revealing that, at the subatomic level, matter is not solid or fixed, but exists as fields of possibility until observed. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrated that subatomic particles behave differently when observed, suggesting that the observer's consciousness directly affects physical reality. This scientifically validated phenomenon resonates deeply with Wattles' claim that our consciousness interacts directly with the thinking substance of the universe. The power of expectation, central to Wattles' methodology, finds scientific validation in the well-documented placebo effect. Rigorous studies demonstrate that patients often experience significant improvements when they believe they are receiving effective treatment, even when administered only sugar pills. This phenomenon goes beyond psychological suggestion. Researchers have documented concrete biochemical changes, release of endorphins, and alterations in brain activity patterns, triggered solely by belief and expectation. Even more impressive is how our mental state literally alters our biochemistry. When we operate from fear, anxiety, or scarcity, our bodies produce excess cortisol and adrenaline, stress hormones that negatively affect our thinking, health, and ability to recognize opportunities. When we cultivate states of gratitude, confidence, and abundance, our bodies produce dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin neurotransmitters that enhance cognition, creativity, social connection, and overall well-being. This biochemical change scientifically explains why people operating in different mental states make drastically different decisions when faced with identical circumstances. It's not just a matter of positive attitude, it's a literal transformation in the neurological and hormonal processes that govern perception, judgment, and behavior. Research into neuroplasticity confirms that we can consciously reshape our brain circuits through repeated thoughts, emotions, and experiences. When Wattles insisted on the importance of consistently holding thoughts of abundance, he was essentially describing the process of reconditioning neural patterns. Each time you deliberately choose a perspective of abundance over scarcity, you literally strengthen specific neural connections while weakening others, gradually transforming your automatic thought patterns. Brain imaging studies reveal significant differences in activation patterns between chronically stressed people and those who cultivate mental states of security and fulfillment. The brain operating under chronic stress, characteristic of scarcity mentality, shows hyperactivity in the amygdala, the fear processing center, and reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning, creativity, and complex decision-making. In contrast, brains of individuals who deliberately cultivate states of gratitude, trust, and abundance show reduced activity in the amygdala and greater activation in the prefrontal cortex. Literally, they access different areas of the brain when facing challenges and opportunities, resulting in qualitatively different perspectives, solutions, and choices. This distinction clearly manifests itself in decision-making processes. Under the influence of scarcity and fear, What neuroscientists call tunnel vision predominates, a narrow band of perception focused on danger and immediate survival. In contrast, positive emotional states activate global thinking, a heightened perception that recognizes patterns, connections, and possibilities that remain invisible under stress. The convergence of these scientific discoveries with the principles articulated by Wattles more than a century ago reveals the profound interconnection between science and spirituality. What was often dismissed as magical thinking or pseudoscience is finding empirical validation. Through rigorous methodologies and replicable observations, intellectually understanding Wattles principles and their scientific validation is just the first step. The true journey of transformation unfolds through predictable steps and inevitable challenges we all face as we realign our vibrational frequency with abundance. The first step is awakening, that moment of clarity when you realize that there is a fundamentally different way of relating to prosperity. This initial understanding is usually accompanied by enthusiasm and determination. You feel like you've finally found the key you've always been looking for, and you're ready to transform your life instantly. This initial enthusiasm, although powerful, inevitably encounters its first challenge, the resistance of established standards. After decades of operating from scarcity, your nervous system, brain circuits, and emotional patterns are deeply conditioned. They will automatically resist change, not because they are negative or self-defeating, but because every system seeks homeostasis, the maintenance of the status quo. This is where many abandon the journey, interpreting this natural resistance as evidence that it's not working or that it's not for me. In fact, this resistance is a positive sign that you are truly challenging ingrained patterns. Discomfort is a natural part of the recalibration process. The key to navigating this phase is gentle but unwavering persistence. When thoughts of scarcity arise, and they will arise, don't fight them or criticize yourself for having them. Simply recognize them as dissolving old patterns and deliberately redirect your attention to prospects of abundance. This consistent practice gradually rewires your neural circuits, establishing new dominant patterns. The second stage of the journey is characterized by fluctuations, periods, where you feel perfectly aligned with abundance, followed by relapses into the old scarcity mindset. This phase can be particularly challenging as you have already experienced the freedom and expansion of the new frequency, making returning to limiting patterns even more frustrating. Again, this does not indicate failure or inability. It is simply the natural process of integrating a new way of being. In the same way that an athlete does not develop muscular endurance in a single workout, you do not transform deeply rooted mental-emotional patterns in a few days or weeks. During this phase, cultivate compassion for yourself. Celebrate small advances rather than focusing on apparent setbacks. Keep a daily record of times when you were able to maintain abundance awareness even in challenging circumstances. This recording strengthens new neural connections and demonstrates your real progress, even when it seems imperceptible. One of the most significant challenges on this journey is dealing with internal doubts and external resistance. Your mind will repeatedly question, does this really work? Am I not just fooling myself? What if I fail completely? Simultaneously, people around you, especially those deeply conditioned by scarcity, may question, ridicule, or actively discourage your new approach. Paradoxically, it is precisely when doubts seem most intense that you are often close to a significant breakthrough. This is because your old patterns offer greater resistance just before giving into new ones. Like a rubber band, tension increases before the quantum leap to a new state. To navigate this inflection point, develop the ability to recognize failures not as evidence that the path is wrong, but as valuable feedback about necessary adjustments. Each apparent setback contains accurate information to refine your approach. As you persist through these challenges, you will enter the third phase of the journey, integration. At this stage, abundance consciousness increasingly becomes your natural state, not a conscious effort. You will still experience moments of doubt or worry, but they become shorter and less impactful. Your ability to quickly return to alignment grows exponentially. You have just taken a journey through the transformative principles that Wallace D. Wattles discovered more than a century ago. Principles that the truly prosperous apply, consciously or not, and that remain hidden from many to this day. We have seen how true prosperity begins not with external actions, but with a fundamental internal realignment. We understand the crucial difference between doing and being, between executing strategies from scarcity and expressing your potential from abundance. We explore the responsive nature of the thinking substance that Wattles identified and that modern science has begun to validate through fields such as quantum physics, neuroscience, and epigenetics. We recognize how the myth of scarcity has been deliberately programmed into our collective consciousness, and how liberation from this myth opens doors to previously invisible possibilities. Now the choice is before you. This knowledge may remain as merely interesting intellectual information, or it may become the catalyst for a fundamental transformation in your life experience. What will determine the outcome is not external circumstances, special qualifications, or some stroke of luck, but your willingness to consistently apply these principles, even when challenged by internal doubts or external resistance. As you begin to consciously align yourself with the frequency of prosperity, you will likely notice small changes first. Perhaps greater clarity in your decisions, greater ease in recognizing opportunities, moments of inexplicable synchronicity, a subtle sensation of expansion where there was once contraction. Start today with a simple but powerful action. Take 5 minutes to close your eyes and genuinely feel what it would be like to live from the certainty of unlimited abundance. Not as a future wish, but as a present reality. Feel it in your body. Visualize it clearly. Allow this sensation to permeate every cell of your being. The truth that Wallace D. Wattles discovered, and that the truly prosperous apply, is both simple and profound. Your external reality will always reflect your dominant internal frequency. Fundamentally change this frequency, and your entire world will change in response. The time is now. The choice is yours.